Hello everybody, hope you're all well. Welcome to the show. I'm Michael Bott.
I'm Rupert Suskin. Welcome.
And we are the Prehistory guys, sometimes referred to as the smashy and nicey of prehistoric archaeology.
True.
Yeah. And guess what? Today we're bringing you news of farming from 7,000 years ago. There you go. Destroyed the YouTube algorithm in all one fell swoop. Quickly, Rupert, before they all go away, tell them why we should be excited about the news.
It really is exciting. This is it's some research that's gone on
I'm convinced.
at Anciens Arsenaux, which is in the Swiss Alps. And it's a multinational team who've been working on this, headed by Samuel van Willigen. And basically, this is evidence for ploughing 7,000 years ago. And the research, I mean, the analysis that they have gone, the evidence that they have come up with for...
Yep.
Pardon?
Yep. I was agreeing with you.
Oh, you were agreeing with me. I'm sorry. I saw your hand waving and I wondered.
I was just seasoning, delicately seasoning your...
But I mean, a lot of you know that we're kind of enthralled by the use of animals in prehistory anyway, and to have this evidence coming out is really exciting. It falls into so many other aspects of prehistoric evidence that these guys have been pulling together. So use of technically an ard rather than a plough. So it's a kind of plough that just digs a straight furrow rather than turning the soil over. That's the essential difference. But nevertheless, drawn by cattle. That's the point.
Okie doke. Do you want me to quote from the source, which was actually an article in Ancient Pages, just to give a bit of
good for a
broad
overview
in somebody else's words. Words of Connie Waters at Ancient Pages. Headline is "Exciting Find in the Swiss Alps. First furrows and animal tracks are evidence of prehistoric ploughing." An exciting find in the Swiss Alps has been unearthed. Soil layers dating back 7,000 years, intriguingly filled with unexplained furrows and animal tracks. This extraordinary discovery by a global team of archaeologists and scientists has revolutionized our perception of Stone Age farming practices in Europe. Their research at the Anciens Arsenaux excavation site in Sion, Valais, Switzerland, you said that, reveals that Stone Age farmers used animals to pull ploughs as far back as between 5,100 and 4,700 BC. The significance, I think you sort of basically said, but I'll reiterate, the significance to us because, as we're looking at, the Göbekli Tepe to Stonehenge project, and that it's so important to our narrative that we're, trying to tell, in what form the Neolithic package was transferred from Anatolia, and into Europe, and how it spread through Europe, and until this paper comes along, this research comes along, it's, kind of in the balance who you listen to as to how this aspect of agriculture developed. And we would have likely, without this, come away with the idea that cattle as traction was a late development born from the sowing of cereals and so on and so forth. But the great amazing thing that this paper is confirming is that cattle traction was all part of the Neolithic package all along. It came along with the growing of cereals, etc. So it's nice to have that kind of confirmation going along.
It's astonishing, isn't it, how different aspects of evidence are accepted or not accepted by archaeologists and researchers from different disciplines. I must admit that I had no idea until I read the source paper for this article. I had no idea that there are rock art depictions of 3000 BC, which granted is later than this, but rock art from 3000 BC, which shows people using plows. And, so often in the past, we've heard people debating whether this actually happened, whether people, when was the plough first developed? And that, here's rock art for it. So it is interesting what's come out of this.
And the other piece of evidence, for animals as traction came from studies that, we certainly knew about the studies about the Balkan cattle, but apparently it goes even further back than that.
In Mesopotamia,
and to Anatolia, 9,000 BC, Anatolia 7,000 BC. So this was already happening. So why it shouldn't have come across with the Neolithic package? That's them.
Yes.
That's what were archaeologists thinking in a way. And I suppose it's that they tend to be very conservative, and because the pathologies on cattle ankle bones is not enough on its own, to
that's true.
Give you proof positive. To be fair,
and it's something that we've debated in the past. That you've got evidence from, particularly you mentioned the evidence from the Balkans, where the cattle ankle bones that they had identified as evidence of traction. These animals had been used to pull more than their own body weight, because the bones grow in a particular way because of that. And the thing is that exactly what you're saying, that's evidence that the animals have been used as traction. Not necessarily they've been used for ploughing for farming. They might have been used for pulling, for a palisaded enclosure, say. They might have been used for pulling huge tree trunks around, or megalithic sites. We've posited for a long time that it's not people pulling
large
them.
lumps of rock.
Long lines of people pulling them. It's cows pulling them. Obviously, no evidence for that. Just common sense, really. But fascinating that the evidence for ploughing the track marks that they're talking about, Mesopotamia, 9,000 BC. So we have this thing. We're saying that all these people were hunter-gatherers, and then you look at this data and you think, really? maybe not. But do you know what? I want to read you. There's a paragraph here from the actual research paper, because when you can ask questions of, well, how would they know that, and how can they tell this? And there's just a paragraph about the soil analysis, and I thought it warranted retelling, because I was quite blown away by the depth of knowledge that must be necessary to do this. It says, thin section analysis has identified a microstratigraphy composed of 4 units. At the base, carbonate alluvia, a low-grade soil, cover fine torrential deposits. Certain micromorphological features, such as the in-situ verticalization of fragmentation of elements, suggest that the soil was worked using a rudimentary tool, such as a hoe. Traces of frost detected in the base gravels. So these are at different sites, at different places in this excavation. Traces of frost detected in the base gravels could be the result of soil denudation at this stage. The sharp, undulating upper boundary is marked by a packed, silty level. Above this, the matrix becomes homogeneous and contains degraded organic matter. This humus-bearing soil, eroded at the top, also contains anthropogenic components such as bone fragments and charcoal, perhaps added as a fertilizer. And that's the key thing.
Thank you so much.
Added as a
Thank you so much for that. You've probably just lost us a large part of our audience.
I love that level of real analytical blah.
And you love talking dirty. Actually, while we're talking of audiences, I just want to take a moment to say thank you, guys. Not only to the people that support us directly, but anybody that has clicked on like and subscribe. You know it helps us enormously. So I just want to thank you, because I know whether you're with us on Patreon or whether you've helped us via Buy Me a Coffee. You help us in so many other ways, because there's a energy and a liveliness and an enthusiasm in the comments that we do see. We don't have time to respond to everybody that comments and all the like. But we really do appreciate the comments, even though it may not be, we make it apparent day to day. Your feedback knocks us for six sometimes.
It does.
Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can only do this because of you. It's true.
Yeah. So with that said, let me carry on. The fundamental important thing about this study, it doesn't mean anything without its dating. And equally important to the detail that you've just brought up is the fact that they were able to date this site. Think about it for a moment, though. Discovering of ploughed earth from 7,000 years ago, how it's been discovered in the first place, or how any marks in the soil can be discovered at such a long time after they've actually been made. That's one thing, setting that aside, but getting a reliable date, and that's quite something else. And that's the good thing about this. They have got a reliable date. Not easy to do, but because of the stratigraphic situation, by the way, these plough marks were preserved because it seems that a nearby stream overflowed and put a layer of silt over the top of these plough marks and protected them and sort of secured them firmly for posterity. But it's because of the stratigraphic sandwich that the actual layer with the plough marks is, which doesn't in itself contain reliable dating material, because the clues in what you call it, ploughing, things get turned over. So anything you find in that layer is not going to be reliable. It could have been churned from above or below into that in terms of dates. Yeah. But because they've got dates from below and the 7 layers above, they've got a really good chronology for this. So that's the other aspect that makes this research secure in putting use of animals as traction at this early date, which, by the way, puts back previous estimates 1,000 years. That's a lot, given the context.
It really is.
That's yeah.
Can I read you something else?
Please do.
Well, it's just another little paragraph that it's about the. It says, micromorphological analysis therefore indicates that the furrows were formed by tillage, suggesting the repeated passage of an ard after the initial substrate preparation. So they've prepared the soil, they can tell that from how even it was, and then the furrow through it is so even that it's obviously been pulled by, it has to have been a cattle. Somebody doing it with a hoe would have been too irregular. It says, despite the small size of the ploughing area that's been preserved, the regularity and continuity of the traces, the compactness of the worked sediment, and the similarity with the marks identified as gamson suggest that animal traction was used.
Well, the other dead giveaway about that is that they did actually find cattle hoof marks.
They did. Bit of a giveaway.
And goat hoof marks. So there is a slight suggestion. No, in the paper there's a slight suggestion that they may have been using goats as traction as well. So there's quite a collection of animal prints there as well. So, that does help the scenario. I'm just a moment, get ahead of a question that's probably in people's minds, and it's something that is addressed in the paper. And that is, how can it's easy now to put this as the earliest date, but bear in mind that this is the only site now that has this kind of indication about it, and that's the only one that's been discovered. Why should this one be discovered in the Alps region? Why on all the plains of Europe? Can we not find similar things? I mean, it's a rare find in the first place, even in the Alps. But on the plains of Europe, which are much more alluvial, and the taphonomic problems of decay on flat areas that aren't regularly flooded in the same way, or have more of a turnover, you're far, far less likely. The circumstances don't exist for the long-term preservation of soft plough marks in the soil.
Plus, if you've had even in through history rather than prehistory, it just in the last 1 or 2,000 years, that if you've had later ploughing, that would have completely destroyed any of those traces that had gone before. Although it has to be said that where there have been recognised sites of plough marks, it's the fact that it's so difficult to date them, because unless, as Michael said, that in this instance it was because the overflowing of silt actually protected this so that it was datable. In most places it's impossible to date, because progressively later and later stuff just gets mixed in with the soil, and there's been more than I expected, actually, the numbers of sites of track marks, including a couple in Scotland. I didn't know about that. Did you know about that?
Oh, yeah. No, I did not. I think there's one down south, sort of Devon area as well. But I'm just guessing off the top of my head.
No, you're right. I spotted one spot. I didn't pursue where that was. But that's the thing. It's that there's all these places where they can see that there's what looks like evidence for ploughing, but just undatable. So what do you do with that? That's
or if it has been dated, it's much later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this really is.
Is there anything we've missed?
I don't think so. I mean, it's kind of short and sweet reporting, really. But
yeah.
I think that.
Well, if you call 18 minutes about Neolithic farming, shorten to the point. Yeah.
But going from 9th millennium BC in Mesopotamia, and then onwards, well, it raises so many questions, doesn't it? Really.
Well, as we know, new discoveries settle issues, then they always raise new issues. But it's good that this issue has been sort of not settled, but settled to a degree, put certain things beyond argument now. So that when we talk when it comes to Göbekli Tepe to Stonehenge, when we talk about Neolithic farming, we can safely mention this as part of the package.
That's true.
Which is a huge thing to be able to do. So we get there, step by step. Archaeologists actually get there, step by step. Yeah. Will we ever get there? Will we ever know all the things we want to know? Who knows? Let us know in the comments below. But I think for the time being, we've seemed to have done 7,000-year-old farming a bit of justice there.
I think we have.
Don't you?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Guys, thanks once again for subscribing and liking. Do have a look at our Patreon page, link in the description below. And if you want to find a way of supporting our Göbekli Tepe to Stonehenge project, which is a film about, fill in the gap, there's a link to our Buy Me a Coffee page down below as well. And hopefully I'll put up a link up there to the promo video for that project. That being said, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. See you again very soon.
See you, folks. Bye.
That was all right, wasn't it?
I think that was all right. Do you know what that last...
Shall I stop recording now?
Oh, you... probably best.